Welcome to this week's roundup of key business developments in Sri Lanka. I'm Nishani Figuera. Let's dive into the headlines. President on official visit in Vietnam. Sri Lankan exporters navigate US trade risks. And tourist arrivals surpass 900,000. In our top story this week, President Anrukumara Dissanayake was in Vietnam this week, his third overseas visit since taking office. During the visit, he held talks with Vietnam's President, His Excellency Luong Kong, with both sides aiming to boost bilateral trade to $1 billion in the coming years. President Dissanayake also signed several trade agreements and MOUs focused on bilateral cooperation. He further engaged with the Vietnamese business community on strengthening investment ties and exploring opportunities for collaboration across tourism, real estate, digital transformation, aviation, finance, and infrastructure. Sri Lankan exporters are closely watching developments in US tariff policy, particularly the potential hike to a 44% tariff on key exports such as rubber products. Currently subject to a 10% tariff, the prospect of a steep increase has made US buyers more cautious. Despite pressures to reduce prices, Sri Lankan manufacturers, especially in the labor-intensive rubber sector, struggle to offer significant discounts. Exporters emphasize the essential nature of their products, particularly for medical and industrial use, which may deter immediate shifts to alternative suppliers. Meanwhile, the Sri Lankan government is in dialogue with the US counterparts to secure more favorable terms and minimize potential economic impacts. Although no major order cancellations have occurred, exporters remain alert to possible shifts in buyer behavior in the months ahead. The World Bank has pledged $1 billion to support Sri Lanka's economic recovery following a visit to the country by Group President Ajay Banga. The funding will span energy, agriculture, tourism, and regional development, especially in the north and east, over 3 years. President Anrukumara Dissanayake said the partnership will help create jobs and support small businesses. Invited by the President, Mr. Banga's visit underscores a 70-year partnership between the World Bank and Sri Lanka, which has supported the country with a $2.2 billion investment aimed at public and private sector development. Moody's reports Sri Lanka's interest payments will remain above 50% of government revenue until 2027, with debt projected at 99% of GDP in 2025, easing to 96% by 2026. While revenue reforms have improved debt affordability, the country still faces fiscal pressure. As foreign reserves rise and external risks ease, the primary balance is expected to hit 4% of GDP by 2026. Moody's urges continued reforms to maintain progress and secure long-term stability, even as debt servicing remains a key challenge for Sri Lanka's economic recovery. In our weekly tourism update, Sri Lanka's tourist arrivals surpassed 917,000 this year, driven by steady inflows in May. During the first 4 days of May, the island welcomed 20,522 tourists, a significant 24% higher from a year earlier. However, daily arrivals dipped to 5,131. India, the United Kingdom, and China were the top source markets in May, with India leading at 6,586 visitors and accounting for over 32% of total arrivals. The Colombo Stock Exchange experienced a downturn following Sri Lanka's local government elections. Despite the negative trend, market turnover remained high. The ruling National People's Power Party secured the most seats in over 260 out of 339 local authorities, and while signaling potential political stability, it failed to gain a majority in several key constituencies. At the Treasury bill auction held on Wednesday, yields on all maturities remained stable. The 3-month and 1-year yields were unchanged, while the 6-month yield saw a marginal increase of 1 basis point to 7.98%. The central bank offered 130 billion rupees and accepted 122.74 billion rupees. The Sri Lankan rupee was steady against the dollar this week, with the central bank's indicative mid-spot rate ranging around 299.5 rupees. And with that, we wind up our update for this week. For the latest on economic and business developments in Sri Lanka, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. We'll be back next week with more insights. Until then, thank you for tuning in. Stay safe.